The difference between Giorgia Meloni and Suella Braverman's plan is interesting, and the recent moves by Sir Keir Starmer to strengthen ties with Italy, particularly on migration policy, shows a combination, a complex blend of pragmatism and controversy. Starmer's government has shown keen interest in Italy's handling of its own migration problems, specifically its controversial Albania migration processing plan, spearheaded by Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. And this plan aims to send asylum seekers to Albania, a non-EU country, albeit applying to be a member of the EU for processing, similar in ambition to the UK's former Conservative Rwanda's plans. And the question really is, what is the difference? Because the right-wing press want to say, yes, Europe is now so inspired by Suella Braverman and her Rwanda plan, and they're now doing the same thing. The left-wing are saying, no, it's something different. In fact, there are significant differences, and I don't think one should be waylaid or misunderstood. The key differences between these two plans lie in their focus, the legal frameworks, and the political context. So first of all, the focus and the geographic focus, if that's possible. Meloni's Albania plan is about processing asylum seekers from Italy in Albania in a neighbouring country. It's a regional solution to the Mediterranean migration crisis. The relationship between Italy and Albania is actually very close. It goes, if you want, it goes all the way back to Mozart, and the two main characters pretend to be Albanians, if you remember. And Despina says, she's completely taken in by the disguise, and says she doesn't like men with moustaches. But the UK's Rwanda plan, on the other hand, wanted to send would-be migrants, termed illegal migrants, under the Migration and Nationalities Act, and under the Illegal Migration Act and the Nationality and Borders Act, to send migrants to Rwanda, simply because of the way that they got to the country, a non-EU and geographically distant country, creating a more global and ambitious offshoring approach. The legal framework, Italy's plan, plans to navigate and embrace EU legal standards and human rights obligations. Given that Albania's position today is that of an EU candidate country, so Italy remains bound by EU law, which constrains the flexibility of this plan. Post-Brexit Britain, however, operates outside EU legal frameworks, and although still facing scrutiny from domestic laws and international obligations, the UK's Rwanda plan was designed with fewer immediate EU restrictions. Meloni's Albania scheme is significantly more temporary and regionally focused, aimed largely at managing migration from North Africa across the Mediterranean. It seeks to address a specific migration flow and for a short period of time. The UK's Rwanda policy was part of a broader deterrent strategy, targeting elemental strategy, rather like the Major General in Pirates of Penzance. Meloni's plan was temporary. The UK's Suella Braverman plan was this broader deterrent to target and deter migrants from crossing the English Channel, aiming to set an international precedent. And it presented a bolder, far-reaching approach covering irregular migration more generally. Both plans have faced potential for criticism for potential human rights violations. The UK's Rwanda plan faced significant legal challenges domestically, with critics questioning Rwanda's safety for asylum processing, but far too few critics were raising the issue of the 13 refugees in 2018 who were shot for questioning a reduction in the food rations. And no proper investigation has ever been published. Also, a significant number of people were injured on not one but at least two different occasions in 2018. Italy's Albania plan, though still under development, faces similar scrutiny under EU human rights laws and international standards. Both schemes raise concerns about the oversight and the treatment of vulnerable individuals seeking refugee status, and the responsibilities of countries who are signatories to the 1951 Refugee Convention about whether or not it's possible to outsource legally and morally, ethically, whether it's possible or appropriate to outsource this obligation. And activists talk about the potential abuses in detention centres. I think for a country which is appealing to be part of the EU, that abuse is likely to be significantly smaller than the abuse that could be expected in Rwanda, particularly given the precedent. So while both plans represent a push towards outsourcing, Starmer's interest in Italy's migration tactics underscores a pragmatic, albeit controversial, it's still controversial, shift towards tougher migration policies. I think the bottom line is that both Italy and Britain recognise and are leading the way in the discussion that is questioning the value and the purpose and the specifics of the 1951 Refugee Convention, which means ultimately we need to have an international conference to redefine the 1951 Refugee Convention and make it suitable for the problems facing countries in the 21st century. This is something that, for the money wasted on Rwanda, we could have easily held an international conference when Rishi Sunak came into power, and that would have left something of value of Rishi Sunak's premiership. He was poorly advised, but that, I think, is now a given understanding of his tenure. The challenge lies now in balancing the moves to sort out the refugee crisis while maintaining human rights standards and addressing concerns, particularly for Starmer, of his own party and the broader electorate, particularly whipped up by people like Farage and the Bravermans, the Kemi Badenochs, and so on. Kemi Badenoch is more concerned about migration than she is about representing her constituency. Starmer's nuanced praise of Italy's upstream efforts, particularly its deals with Tunisia and Libya, again reflects this balancing act, distancing himself from the more extreme measures like the Albania plan, while still endorsing pragmatic cooperation on migration issues. And it's important to remember that Italy's plan is still in development, and it will have to navigate the EU human rights standards, the potential legal scrutiny from both domestic and European courts. But given Albania's EU candidacy and Italy's understanding of its own international obligations, I think this is likely to be something that will move forward positively, rather than be stuck in some sort of backwater of ridicule like the British Rwanda plan and the people who were proposing it.